The darkness of space tore open like a wound. 300 warships emerged from the swirling blue light of hyperspace, their massive hulls gleaming under the distant light of an unfamiliar star. The vessels spread out in perfect formation, each one bristling with weapons that had burned entire civilizations to ash. Commander Zalthar stood on the bridge of the flagship, his four eyes scanning the tactical displays. His scaled skin reflected the soft glow of the screens around him. This was his 48th conquest. 47 worlds had fallen before the might of the Vraxian armada, and this primitive planet called Earth would be no different. Status report, Zalthar commanded, his voice a deep rumble that made junior officers straighten their backs. All ships accounted for, Commander, his second officer replied. We are at the edge of the system. Target planet is the third one from the star. Initial scans show a single inhabited world. Zalthar pulled up the data on Earth. The planet glowed blue and green on his screen, covered in water and land. His scientists had been watching this world for months from a distance. The reports were clear. Humans were primitive. They fought among themselves constantly. They had barely touched their own moon. They had no faster-than-light travel. They had no energy shields. They were perfect targets. They do not even know we are coming, Zalthar said with satisfaction. Begin the approach. Standard intimidation pattern. We will give them time to see us, to fear us, to understand that resistance is pointless. The fleet began moving forward, slow and steady. This was how the Vraxians always did it. They would approach slowly over several days, letting their enemies see the massive fleet coming. By the time they arrived, most planets surrendered without a fight. The ones that did fight never lasted more than a few hours. Zalthar reviewed the intelligence reports again. Humans had primitive rockets and satellites. They had nuclear weapons, but those were useless against shielded warships. They had divided governments that could barely agree on anything. The perfect prey. Weak, scattered, unprepared, sir. We are detecting unusual electromagnetic signals from the planet, a sensor operator reported. Explain, Zalthar said. Radio waves, broadcasts, data transmissions, massive amounts of them. The entire planet is lit up with communications. Zalthar waved a clawed hand dismissively. Primitive chatter. They use radio waves like children use string and cans. Ignore it. Focus on military installations. The fleet continued its slow march through the outer system. They passed the 8th planet, then the 7th. Gas giants loomed in the distance, massive and silent. Zalthar felt the familiar excitement building in his chest. Another world would fall. Another conquest for the Empire. Another victory for his name. Deploy scanner drones, he ordered. I want full tactical data before we reach weapons range. Map every military base, every weapons facility, every potential resistance point. A swarm of small drones launched from the fleet, racing ahead toward Earth. Each drone was packed with sensors that could detect everything from nuclear stockpiles to underground bunkers. They would give the Vraxians a complete picture of Earth's defenses. Zalthar watched the drone feeds on his screen. They streaked through space, passing the 6th planet with its beautiful rings, then the 5th with its swirling red storm. Earth grew larger in their cameras, a jewel in the darkness. Then the first drone disappeared. Sir, we have lost contact with drone 17, the sensor operator said. Malfunction, Zalthar said. Continue. 3 more drones vanished from the sensors. Sir, drones 12, 34, and 8 are offline. Zalthar frowned. 4 malfunctions? That was unusual, but not impossible. The drones were old, used in many campaigns. Deploy a second wave, he ordered. More drones launched. They followed the same path as the first group. Zalthar watched carefully this time. The drones passed the gas giants without issue. They entered the inner system, approaching the 4th planet, the red one the humans called Mars. Then, one by one, they started disappearing. Not malfunctioning, not going offline, simply vanishing from sensors as if they had never existed. This is not normal, his second officer said quietly. Perhaps the humans have better defenses than we thought. Zalthar replied, no matter. Drones are expendable. We have enough ships to flatten anything they can build. But doubt crept into his mind like cold water. 47 conquests had taught him to recognize patterns. Primitive species did not shoot down scout drones. Primitive species could barely detect scout drones, yet his drones were disappearing with perfect efficiency. Continue the approach, Zalthar ordered, pushing the doubt away. All ships to battle stations. Charge weapons. Raise shields. We will not be caught unprepared by whatever primitive defenses these humans have managed. The fleet moved deeper into the system. Earth was still 2 days away at their current speed. Plenty of time to crush whatever resistance waited for them. Plenty of time to remind this species why the Vraxians ruled this sector of space. But as Zalthar stared at the blue planet growing larger on his screens, a small voice in the back of his mind whispered a question he did not want to answer. What if we are wrong about them? The space around Earth's moon erupted with light. Zalthar stumbled backward as his bridge erupted in alarm bells and flashing red warnings. Where there had been empty space a moment before, now thousands of energy signatures blazed across his sensors like angry stars. Report, he roared. Ships, sir. Hundreds of them. No, thousands. They are appearing all around us. The sensor operator's voice cracked with panic. Impossible. We detected nothing. But Zalthar's eyes could see the truth on the screens. Massive platforms materialized in orbit around the moon. Weapons batteries the size of cities uncloaked around Earth itself. Near Mars, which had appeared dead and barren moments before an entire battle station became visible, bristling with cannon ports. They were hiding, his second officer whispered. They were waiting for us. A transmission crackled through the fleet's communications. Every ship received it simultaneously, and it was not in human language. It was in perfect unaccented Vraxian. Attention, Vraxian Armada. You have entered Sol System sovereign space without permission. This is a restricted military zone. Power down all weapon systems immediately, and prepare to be escorted to a neutral holding position. Comply, or face immediate defensive action. The bridge fell completely silent. Zalthar felt his 4 hearts hammering in his chest. They spoke Vraxian. They knew the fleet was coming. They had been ready. How? Zalthar breathed. How do they know our language? His communications officer was frantically checking systems. Sir, the translation is perfect. Better than perfect. They are using military protocols that only our fleet commanders should know. Send a response, Zalthar ordered, trying to keep his voice steady. Tell them we are the Vraxian Empire. Tell them to surrender their world or be destroyed. Before the communications officer could send the message, every screen on the bridge flickered. Zalthar's tactical displays went dark for 3 seconds. When they came back online, half of his weapon systems showed red error messages. Sir, we are experiencing system failures across the fleet. Weapons, shields, propulsion, everything is glitching. Cyber attack! The second officer shouted. They are inside our networks. Zalthar stared in horror as ship after ship in his fleet reported the same problems. Something invisible and devastating was tearing through their computer systems like a virus through a body. Weapons that had conquered 47 worlds now refused to fire. Shields flickered on and off. Ships began drifting as their propulsion systems failed. Another transmission came through, and this time a face appeared on the screen. A human face. The creature had only 2 eyes, pale skin, and short dark hair. It wore a uniform Zalthar did not recognize, covered in symbols and badges. I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Defense Force, the human said calmly in perfect Vraxian. Your weapon systems are currently being disabled by our cyber warfare division. This is a temporary measure to prevent loss of life on both sides. Power down voluntarily and you will not be harmed. You cannot do this, Zalthar snarled. We are the Vraxian Empire. We have crushed civilizations across 100 star systems. The human woman's expression did not change. We know exactly who you are, Commander Zalthar. We have been watching you for 32 years. Zalthar felt ice run through his veins. 32 years? That is impossible. 32 years ago, you sent a scout ship to observe our solar system. Admiral Chen continued. That ship experienced a malfunction near Saturn and was forced to make emergency repairs. We captured it. We captured the crew. We learned everything. The pieces fell into place in Zalthar's mind like a collapsing building. The scout ship that never returned. The one his empire had written off as lost to engine failure. The humans had taken it. They had studied it. They had learned from it. All weapons to full power, Zalthar roared. Fire everything that still works.
Kill them all!
40% of his fleet's weapons responded. Missiles and energy beams lanced out toward the human defensive positions. For a moment, Zalthar felt hope. The humans could not withstand the combined firepower of even a weakened Vraxian fleet. Then the human ships moved. They were small compared to Vraxian warships, perhaps a quarter of the size. But they moved like nothing Zalthar had ever seen. They twisted and spun through space with impossible agility, dodging missiles that should have been unavoidable. They accelerated faster than his sensors could track. They appeared behind his ships, beside his ships, above and below, moving in 3 dimensions with a grace that seemed to mock the laws of physics. The human weapons did not aim to destroy. They targeted engines, propulsion systems, power cores. One by one, Vraxian warships found themselves crippled, floating dead in space but intact. Crews alive but helpless. They are disabling us, the second officer said in disbelief. They are not even trying to kill us. Within 10 minutes, 50 Vraxian ships were dead in space. Within 20 minutes, 100. The human ships danced around the fleet like sharks around wounded prey, striking with precision that should have been impossible. Zalthar tried to coordinate a response, but the cyber attack had crippled their communications. Ships could not talk to each other. Formations fell apart. Tactics became impossible. Each ship fought alone and each ship fell. A human boarding craft attached to Zalthar's flagship. He expected soldiers to pour through, weapons blazing. Instead, small machines floated into the ship. Robots. They moved through the corridors, connecting to computer terminals, spreading the infection deeper into his systems. Not a single human had set foot on his ship, and yet it was already conquered. Admiral Chen's face appeared on his screen again. "Stand down, Commander. This does not have to end in more bloodshed. We are not your enemy, but we will not allow you to harm our world." Zalthar looked around his bridge. Half his crew was injured from the sudden system failures. His ship was dying around him. His fleet was scattered and broken, and the humans had done it all without destroying a single vessel. For the first time in his career, Zalthar understood what it meant to be prey. The detention facility was not what Zalthar expected. He sat in a clean room with comfortable furniture. Medical staff had treated his injuries. They had given him food that was actually edible, adjusted to Vraxian biology. Guards stood outside, but they carried no weapons. They simply watched. Across from him sat a human woman in a different uniform. Her name badge said Dr. Elizabeth Santos, Cultural Integration Specialist. She spoke Vraxian as if she had been born to it. "How are you feeling, Commander?" she asked. "Like a prisoner," Zalthar replied bitterly. "You are a prisoner," Dr. Santos said gently, "but you are a treated prisoner, under the protection of the Geneva Convention. You will not be tortured. You will not be executed. You will be fed, sheltered, and given medical care. Why? We came to conquer your world. Because that is how we treat prisoners of war. It is our law. Our honor." She pulled out a data tablet. "I need to explain some things to you, Commander. Things that will help you understand why you never had a chance against us." She activated the screen, and images began to play. Zalthar watched in growing horror. The first images showed humans fighting each other. Massive wars that covered entire continents. Millions dead, cities reduced to rubble, weapons that poisoned the land for generations. Chemical attacks, biological warfare, nuclear explosions that turned cities into glass. This was World War I, Dr. Santos explained. 40 million casualties. We fought over territory, resources, and old grudges. Then barely 20 years later, we did it again. More images, bigger wars, more death. Zalthar saw concentration camps, bombed cities, soldiers dying in mud and blood. The scale of human violence made his stomach turn. World War II. 80 million dead. We developed weapons that could destroy entire cities in seconds. We used them. We killed each other with industrial efficiency. "You are monsters," Zalthar whispered. "We were," Dr. Santos agreed quietly. "But we learned. After the Second Great War, we decided that if we did not unite, we would destroy ourselves. It took time, decades. We still fought smaller wars. We still killed each other. But slowly we began to understand something." She changed the images. Now Zalthar saw humans in space, building stations, exploring planets, working together. We realized that fighting each other was pointless when there was an entire universe to explore. But we also realized something else. We had spent thousands of years perfecting the art of war. Every civilization in our history had contributed something to our military knowledge. The Romans taught us logistics. The Mongols taught us mobility. The Germans taught us combined arms warfare. The Americans taught us air superiority. The Chinese taught us strategy and patience. Dr. Santos leaned forward. By the time we captured that Vraxian scout ship, we had 10,000 years of military evolution behind us. You conquered 47 worlds using the same tactics every time. We studied those tactics. We studied your technology. And we realized something terrifying. What? Zalthar asked, dreading the answer. You have never fought anyone who fought back effectively. Every species you conquered was peaceful or divided or simply unprepared. You never faced an enemy that had spent millennia learning how to kill efficiently. You never faced an enemy that had nearly destroyed itself multiple times through warfare and learned from those mistakes. She pulled up new images. Human soldiers in training. Simulations of battles. War games that involved millions of people. We do not just have soldiers, Commander. We have video games where children practice warfare for entertainment. We have movies that glorify combat. We have sports that are simulated battles. Our entire culture is built on competition and conflict. Even in peacetime, we practice war. Zalthar thought of his own people. The Vraxians had been warriors once, thousands of years ago, but after they achieved space travel, they had only fought primitives. Easy victories. Soft targets. They had grown lazy, reliant on superior technology rather than superior tactics. Your cyber attack, Zalthar said. How did you penetrate our system so easily? Dr. Santos smiled grimly. Because we spend half our time on Earth hacking each other. Our nations conduct cyber warfare against each other constantly. Our corporations steal from each other. Our criminal hackers attack our banks and governments daily. We have had to develop defenses against our own kind. Your systems, designed to fight primitives who barely understood computers, were no match for humans who had been breaking into secure networks for entertainment since they were 12 years old. She showed him more data. Human military doctrine, guerrilla warfare, asymmetric tactics, psychological operations, deception strategies, the use of propaganda, the concept of mutually assured destruction. We have a saying on Earth. Dr. Santos continued. If you want peace, prepare for war. We prepared, Commander. For 32 years we prepared. We unified our governments under one military command. We reverse-engineered your technology and made it better. We built fleets in secret, hidden in the asteroid belt and beyond Neptune where your scouts never looked. We turned our entire solar system into a fortress. Why did you not warn us away? Zalthar asked. Why let us get so close? Because we needed to study you. We needed to see how you fought, how you thought, how you commanded. We needed to know if you could be reasoned with or if you needed to be stopped. She paused, and we needed evidence. Video recordings of your attack, data on your weapons, proof that you were the aggressors. Because we are not just going to defeat you, Commander. We are going to use you to change the galaxy. Zalthar felt dread settling into his bones. What do you mean? Dr. Santos stood up and walked to the window. Outside, Zalthar could see human ships moving in perfect formation. Thousands of them. More than he had ever seen before. You told me you conquered 47 worlds, she said softly. But you know what we see when we look at that number? 47 worlds that need to be liberated. 47 civilizations that deserve freedom. 47 reasons to end the Vraxian Empire forever. She turned back to face him, and her eyes were hard as steel. We did not just prepare to defend Earth, Commander. We prepared to ensure that what you did to those 47 worlds never happens to anyone ever again. And you are going to help us do it. 3 days had passed since the battle. Zalthar sat in what humans called a conference room aboard their orbital station. Through the massive window he could see his fleet. Every single ship was disabled, surrounded by human vessels. 300 proud warships reduced to floating prisons. Admiral Chen entered the room, followed by several other humans in military uniforms. They carried data pads and looked exhausted like people who had not slept in days. Commander Zalthar, Admiral Chen said, sitting across from him. We need to have a very serious conversation. About my surrender? Zalthar asked bitterly. About the choice your empire needs to make. She activated a holographic display in the center of the table. The entire solar system appeared, rendered in perfect detail. Look carefully at this map. Zalthar looked. At first he saw nothing unusual. Earth, Mars, the asteroid belt, Jupiter, Saturn. Then Admiral Chen touched a control and the map changed. Thousands of red dots appeared throughout the solar system. Around every major body, hidden in the asteroid belt, scattered through the Kuiper belt at the edge of the system. More red dots than Zalthar could count. Each red dot is a weapons platform, Admiral Chen explained. Railguns. missile batteries, energy cannons. We have turned the entire solar system into a defensive network. Any ship trying to enter would have to run through a gauntlet that would destroy fleets 10 times the size of yours. Zalthar felt sick. They had walked into a trap so complete, so total, that escape had never been possible. But that is not all, another human officer said. He was younger, with sharp eyes. 3 days ago, when your fleet first entered our system, we activated something we call Operation Lighthouse. The holographic display changed again. Now it showed trajectories leading out of the solar system, back along the route the Vraxian fleet had taken. 30 stealth ships, the officer continued. They followed your hyperspace wake back to Vraxian space. Right now, those ships are positioned in orbit around your homeworld and your 6 major colony worlds. They are watching everything, recording everything, mapping every defense, every ship, every military installation. Zalthar stood up so fast his chair fell over. You would not dare attack our homeworld. Sit down, Commander, Admiral Chen said firmly. Zalthar sat, his legs suddenly weak. We do not want to attack your homeworld, she continued. But we needed you to understand your position. We could have destroyed your fleet the moment you entered our system. We could have killed every single one of your soldiers, but we chose not to. Do you know why? Zalthar shook his head, unable to speak. Because we are not like you. We do not conquer for the sake of conquest. We do not enslave for the sake of power. We fight only when we must, and when we fight to protect. She leaned forward. But make no mistake, Commander. If your empire refuses our terms, if you continue to threaten other worlds, we will dismantle your civilization piece by piece. We have the capability. We have the will. And we have the moral authority because you struck first. Another human, an older woman with gray hair, activated a new display. This one showed 47 different planets, the worlds the Vraxians had conquered. For 32 years, we have not just been preparing to defend ourselves, she said. We have been preparing to help others. We sent covert teams to each of these worlds. We provided weapons and supplies to resistance movements. We shared technology. We gave hope to people who had none. Zalthar stared at the displays. On each world, he could see evidence of human interference. Weapons that should not exist. Communications networks that should have been destroyed. Organized resistance where there should have been only submission. Every world you thought you controlled is ready to rise up, the woman continued. They are just waiting for the signal. The signal that the Vraxian Empire can be defeated. And you just gave them that signal when your fleet failed to conquer Earth. Admiral Chen stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the disabled fleet. In 1 hour, I am going to open a communication channel to your homeworld. Your high command will receive a message from me, and you are going to deliver it. You are going to tell them exactly what happened here, and then you are going to give them our terms. She turned back to face Zalthar. The terms are simple. The Vraxian Empire will immediately withdraw all military forces from the 47 conquered worlds. You will allow those worlds to form their own governments. You will stand trial for war crimes, not death, but justice under galactic law that we are establishing. In exchange, we will not attack your homeworld. We will not destroy your empire completely. We will allow your core worlds to remain independent, provided you never again attempt to conquer others. And if we refuse? Zalthar asked quietly. The young officer pulled up a new display. It showed massive human battle fleets, thousands of ships positioned at hyperspace jump points throughout the region. If you refuse, we activate Operation Sundown. Every human fleet jumps simultaneously to Vraxian space. We do not occupy. We do not invade. We simply destroy every military asset you have, every warship, every space station, every orbital defense platform. We leave your civilians untouched, but we reduce your military capability to 0. Then we do the same to any other empire that thinks conquest is acceptable. Zalthar felt the weight of his entire civilization resting on his shoulders. He had come to conquer a primitive world, and instead found himself the prisoner of the most dangerous species in the galaxy, a species that had spent 10,000 years perfecting warfare and another 30 years preparing specifically to defeat his empire. You planned this, he said slowly. All of it. You let us come. You studied us. You prepared for this exact moment. Admiral Chen nodded. We learned from our own history, Commander. We know what empires do if left unchecked. We know how much suffering they cause. We decided 32 years ago that if we ever gained the power to stop it, we would. Your scout ship gave us that power. Your invasion gave us the justification. She walked back to the table and stood directly in front of Zalthar. In 1 hour, you speak to your high command. You tell them the truth. You convince them to accept our terms, because if you do not, your empire ends tonight, not through conquest or slavery, but through the complete removal of your ability to threaten anyone ever again. Zalthar looked at the humans around the table. They were not gloating. They were not cruel. They simply looked tired and determined, like people doing an unpleasant but necessary job. And in that moment, Zalthar understood the true horror of humanity. They were not monsters. They were not conquerors. They were protectors who had the power and will to enforce peace through overwhelming force. They had taken everything his empire understood about warfare and made it obsolete. I will speak to my high command, Zalthar said quietly. I will tell them what I have seen. Whether they listen or not is beyond my control. Then we better hope they are smarter than you were, Admiral Chen replied. The communication chamber was cold and silent. Zalthar stood before a holographic projector, his hands bound not with chains but with his own shame. Around him, human guards waited with weapons at rest. They did not point them at him. They did not need to. Admiral Chen stood beside him. Remember, Commander, tell them the truth. All of it. The hologram flickered to life. 5 members of the Vraxian High Command appeared, their faces showing confusion and anger. Supreme Commander Calrix, the eldest, spoke first. Zalthar, what is the meaning of this transmission? Why have you not reported for 3 days? Why do human vessels surround your fleet? Zalthar took a deep breath. His career was over. His honor was destroyed, but perhaps he could save his people from something worse. Supreme Commander, the invasion has failed. The humans were ready for us. They have been ready for 32 years, ever since they captured the scout ship we sent to their system. They knew we were coming. They prepared. They turned their entire solar system into a fortress, and we walked into it like blind fools. The council members erupted in angry voices, all speaking at once. Calrix silenced them with a gesture. Impossible. Our intelligence said they were primitive. They had no faster-than-light travel. They were divided. They lied, Supreme Commander. They hid their true capabilities. They have fleets larger than ours. They have weapons more advanced than ours. They have tactics we have never encountered because they spent 10,000 years fighting each other before they ever reached space. We never had a chance. Another council member, War Master Tolvin, leaned forward with fury in his eyes. Then you are a coward. You surrendered when you should have fought to the death. They did not give me the choice, Zalthar said quietly. They disabled our ships without destroying them. They hacked our systems. They took us prisoner without killing a single crew member. They showed mercy when they could have shown annihilation. Admiral Chen stepped forward so the council could see her. Supreme Commander Calrix, I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Defense Force. Commander Zalthar has told you the truth. Your invasion fleet is now in our custody. Every ship, every soldier, all alive and well treated according to our laws. Return our ships and soldiers immediately or face the full might of the Vraxian Empire. Calrix roared. Supreme Commander, I must inform you that you are currently being watched by 30 human stealth ships positioned throughout your territory. They have been there for 3 days, observing and recording. We know the location of every military asset you possess. We know your defenses. We know your capabilities. And we are prepared to act. The council fell silent. Fear replaced anger on their faces. Admiral Chen continued in a calm, measured voice. The Vraxian Empire has conquered 47 worlds through force. You have enslaved billions of beings. You have committed acts that we on Earth would call war crimes. This ends now. She activated a display that appeared in the council chamber. It showed human fleets positioned at strategic points throughout the sector. These are our terms. You will immediately withdraw all military forces from the 47 conquered worlds. You will allow those civilizations to govern themselves freely. You will cooperate with an independent tribunal that will investigate war crimes and deliver justice. In exchange, we will not attack your core worlds. We will allow your home system and your original colonies to remain independent. You will be allowed to maintain a defensive fleet, but never again will you be permitted to launch wars of conquest. And if we refuse, Calrix asked, though his voice had lost its strength, then Operation Sundown activates. We will not invade your worlds. We will not harm your civilians. But we will systematically destroy every military vessel, every space station, and every weapons platform you possess. We will reduce your military capability to 0, leaving you defenseless for a generation. Then we will offer the same choice to every other empire that threatens innocent worlds. War Master Tollivan slammed his fist on the table. You cannot police the galaxy. You are one world, one species. We are one species that nearly destroyed itself through warfare, Admiral Chen replied. We learned hard lessons about power and responsibility. We decided that if we ever had the strength to prevent others from making our mistakes, we would use it. Your invasion gave us the legal and moral authority to act. Now you must choose. Peace through justice or devastation through pride. Supreme Commander Calrix was silent for a long moment. Zalthar could see the calculation in his eyes. The Vraxian Empire had built itself on military might, but that might meant nothing against an enemy that could disable fleets without firing a shot, that could penetrate systems designed to be impregnable, that could position ships in your own territory without detection. How long do we have to decide? Calrix asked quietly. 12 hours, Admiral Chen said. Then our fleets move into position, and you will see that we are not bluffing. Choose wisely, Supreme Commander. Choose peace. The transmission ended. Zalthar slumped against the wall, exhausted. They will accept, he said quietly. They have no choice, Admiral Chen nodded. I know, but they needed to see the truth for themselves. 12 hours later, the Vraxian High Command accepted the terms. The empire that had stood for 300 years began its dissolution. Occupied worlds celebrated their liberation. Resistance fighters emerged from hiding, armed with human weapons and trained in human tactics. The galaxy watched in shock as the mighty Vraxian war machine dismantled itself under human supervision. 5 years passed. Zalthar stood in a classroom on Earth, facing 50 students from 20 different species. He taught a course called The Cost of Conquest, Lessons from the Vraxian Empire. His students listened with rapt attention as he explained how overconfidence, cruelty, and the assumption of superiority had led to his people's downfall. After class, he walked through New York City, a place that had once been called one of humanity's greatest achievements. He saw humans and aliens walking together, trading, laughing, living in peace. The United Earth Defense Force had become the United Galactic Defense Force, with ships and soldiers from 100 worlds working together to prevent any new empire from rising. At a park, Zalthar sat on a bench and watched human children playing. They ran and laughed and fought over toys like children everywhere. So small, so fragile, so innocent. But he knew the truth now. These children came from a world that had forged them in fire, a world that had nearly destroyed itself a dozen times through war, famine, disease, and hatred. A world that had learned finally to direct its incredible capacity for violence toward protection rather than conquest. He thought of the old Vraxian saying, "The strong rule the weak." Humanity had taught the galaxy a new saying, "The strong protect the weak, or they are not truly strong at all." A human woman sat down beside him, Dr. Santos, who had interviewed him years ago. She was older now, with more gray in her hair. "How are you, Commander?" she asked. "I am well," Zalthar replied, "though I am no longer a commander, just a teacher now, just someone trying to ensure others do not repeat my mistakes." "That is more important work than you know," Dr. Santos said. "We are building something new in this galaxy, a civilization based on cooperation rather than conquest. But it only works if people like you help us. If you teach the next generation why the old ways were wrong." Zalthar nodded slowly. "Your people terrify me, Dr. Santos. Even now, even after 5 years of peace, because I know what you are capable of. I know the violence that sleeps beneath your civilization, always ready, always watching." "Good," Dr. Santos said softly. "Fear is healthy. It prevents wars, but it should not prevent friendship." She stood up and offered her hand. "Come. I have a meeting with the Galactic Council. They want to discuss establishing a university for interspecies cultural exchange. I recommended you to run the military history department." Zalthar took her hand and stood, as they walked through the park together, past playing children and peaceful families. He reflected on the strange path his life had taken. He had come to Earth expecting an easy conquest, another chapter in the story of Vraxian dominance. Instead, he had learned that humanity's greatest strength was not their weapons or their technology, or even their tactical brilliance. It was their refusal to let strength become cruelty, their insistence that power meant responsibility, their absolute conviction that protecting the innocent was worth any cost. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson from the failed invasion. Humans did not just survive, they thrived. And when they thrived, They lifted others with them, but anyone who threatened them, who sought to harm the innocent, who believed that conquest was their right, would learn the same lessons Althar had learned. Humans were not humanity's greatest defenders because they were peaceful. They were humanity's greatest defenders because they understood war better than anyone else and chose peace anyway. And that made them the most dangerous species in the galaxy.